in the dynamic leadership pathways, and he's way ahead of me. Level 3. This one is negotiate the best outcome. And his speech title, well, let me introduce it. It says playing the negotiation game with the car dealer can actually be fun if you know how to play. Isn't that right? With a few tips, you might actually be able to win. Time negotiating to get another dollar. Please help me welcome Ed Witherington.
$1,200. That's what I got from my last negotiation from the car dealership. This Toastmaster, Toastmasters, and one-day guest. Let me give you some tips on what I did in order to do that. And when I say I got $1,200, I'm not talking about retail and I saved $1,200. I'm talking about $1,200 over what I normally get. I got better at it. And you do have to play it. It's a game. But here's the disadvantage, the real challenge is when you go to negotiate with that salesperson, you've already lost. You're not going to be as good as they are. How many cars have you bought in your lifetime? 1, 2, 6? They're sitting there all day long, day after day. And you know what? They were trained. Were you trained? No. No, you just showed up. They have a distinct advantage. And one of the tools they use is called 4 squares. 4 squares is a true measurement they're trained on. You have the trade-in value of the car, price that they want you to pay. They've got the financing, or the payment, and then you also have your down payment. So immediately they start working the 4 squares because they already know the price and they already know when you walk on the lot, okay, it's probably a single mom, there's no kids, but don't they start asking you questions, building that relationship? So they're stacking. I mean, you haven't done anything and they're already stacking the advantages. But here's the key. When we think about negotiation, there's different styles. There's a competitive style where you win, you lose. Sometimes we feel like that in a negotiation. However, there's also a compromise. So I give a little bit, you give a little bit, and guess what? We'll both win. That is the goal of the negotiator for a salesperson on that lot. They want to make sure that when you walk off the lot, that you feel like you won. Because if you don't, you probably won't come back, right? How do you turn the tables and actually use some of their tactics that they use? That's what I did. Before I stepped on that lot, you know what I did? I pulled up Car Gurus. Number one, I found the car that I wanted. You're not going to get me to go and look at other cars based on the price that I have in range. I want that car. Only car I'm after. I know what the trade-in value is. I know what the owner-to-owner value is. I know what the retail value is. I know how long that car has been sitting on the lot. It's 266 days, which I know you want to move it. Because I know that before I step on the lot. I made a phone call. I think there's a guy named Jim that I talked to a couple of years ago that I worked with. He was kind of a tall, skinny guy, a little funny. You want to? Oh, yeah. That was Jim. I've never been on a lot before, but you know what I just did? I am now working with a guy who's been at the lot for a couple of years, who probably knows more than the manager does and can influence the manager, which is a whole nother game in itself. I'm not working with a newbie.
That's a smart one. Sorry.
I haven't stepped on the lot yet. Once I step on the lot, the game has started. Game on. I own it. I'm negotiating for that specific car. And I got it, he doesn't know this, Mr. Jim. I've got it all lined up. Because you know what? Ooh, I have a manager too. My manager's my wife, and guess what? She makes decisions. So I've got to go through her. So as he negotiates, I have to negotiate too. As I start discussing with him, there's urgency. This is the last car. This is a popular car, yada yada. Well, no, it's not, because it's been on 266 days. I tell the salesperson, I'm buying a car today. And I happen to be driving by your lot and saw your car. And right down the road, there's another one that's got a few more miles, a little bit older, but I'm ready to go buy that car right now, today. So I go and take the stance that he does. I go and actually look at the car real close, and I do something very deliberate. There's a scratch in the car, and I'm hoping that the car hasn't been a restoration, but I actually touch the scratch. It's a psychological move. It impacts him that the car is not as valuable, just like he would do for me. So, here it comes. Jim, I'm going to do you a favor. This car is outside of my price range, but I'm going to do you a favor. Sound familiar? I'm gonna go talk to my manager, and I'm gonna ask them to see if they can go over their price. So I go over here and I'm talking to my wife, who's dying, by the way, going, oh gosh, I want this car. But I kind of act like I'm really not that interested, because I really want the other one, right? Jim, I'm gonna go and I talk to my manager. We can go 12.5. Which happens to be $500 over the trade-in, so that they make money, win-win, right? But here's the deal. If you don't take this deal, I'm going right down there. I'm walking away. It's over. One shot. Now, as we're driving off the parking lot with this new car that my wife loves, I look back in retrospect and said, you know what? I got the deal I wanted. I stole that car. I did exactly what I was after. But isn't that what he wanted me to think in the very beginning?